Hey there, everybody. Coach Mark here. Before we dive into today's topic, make sure to find me over on Instagram as Coach Mark Estrabio. Also, I offer one-to-one coaching. It's what I do full-time, and the odds are very good. I'd love to work with you. But with that being said, let's get into it. So today, we're going to be talking all about upper back strengthening for the strongman athlete. I'm lovingly calling this CARABAO Conjugate. The CARABAO is a type of water buffalo indigenous to the Philippines. They are a symbol of just unyielding, resilient strength, and they've got a very big, powerful yoke. So when we talk about the yoke, how I'm defining that for the purpose of this video is that's your spinal erectors, your lats, traps, rear delts, and rhomboids. These muscles all work together to keep you from folding in half underneath a big yoke walk, farmers, or from getting ripped out of position on a deadlift. By having all of these muscles be strong, working together, and coordinated, you're going to be able to punch above your weight class as a strongman athlete. Again, the CARABAO is lauded, people applaud it because it's strength and it's persevering, so we want to have that sort of mindset when it comes to programming for the upper back. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about each of these muscle groups individually, just sort of what good movements I recommend for them, as well as how they really function for you as a strongman athlete now. It is worth mentioning, I'm not going to take any time to discuss the spinal erectors per se, just because they are going to get worked extensively through all your compound lifts. So first and foremost are your lats. Their primary function is they pull the arms down and in a strongman, that is huge for stability. Packing those lats down and in creates a more rigid torso for a deadlift, for example. One of my favorite cues in the deadlift is to think to connect your shoulder blade to the opposite back pocket. Do not pinch your shoulder blades back in a deadlift. Your shoulder blades should be down and in. That's what the lat does. Essentially, this helps link your upper back to your core and hips, and that is really good for coordination on dynamic start deadlifts, loading, moving events, everything. Vertical pulls and rows are going to be your primary movements for helping develop here. I personally really like the bent over barbell row alongside chin-ups for bicep health. These two are probably the big ones, but obviously any sort of vertical pull and horizontal pull will help build the muscle group. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the traps. Now, the traps do consist of 3 sections. There are the upper, middle, and lower traps. Now, the upper traps are actually going to pull the shoulders up and in, whereas the lower and middle traps will actually pull the shoulders down and back. On any sort of moving event, the main function of the traps is to keep your arms from getting ripped out of the socket. Additionally, on the deadlift, they're going to help you get your shoulders back to receive a proper down command. Every single shrug variation under the sun is going to work them alongside static holds, obviously. Now for direct trap work, I'm a really big fan of the chest-supported incline shrug, aka the Kelso shrug. Beyond that, another one that I think is extremely underrated for helping develop your traps as a strongman athlete is a controlled eccentric on your deadlift. And this is also going to help you learn to not drop your deadlifts, which if the promoter is actually enforcing the rules, you shouldn't be dropping them. And again, learning how to do eccentrics on your deadlifts will help you learn how to get a more efficient stroke for reps on that particular variation. The rear delts primarily act as anchors when wrapping around something like a sandbag or a stone, not to mention being absolutely essential if you're going to press with any sort of stability. They're going to get worked by most rowing variations, especially if you use a wider grip. Band pull-aparts, face pulls, rear delt raises, and rear delt swings are going to be your primary movements here. Honestly, if you have access to a cable crossover or reverse pec deck, use a machine here. The rear delts are one of those muscles that it's really great to get some direct isolation on them and keep the lateral delts from taking over. Last but not least would be the rhomboids. The rhomboids sit beneath the traps and they pull your shoulder blades toward your spine. They're the primary muscle for scapular retraction, so pinching your shoulder blades back. In strongmen, we primarily use them isometrically by giving us that sort of clamping power to hold on to objects so our upper back doesn't round out and we lose position. Rows with the elbows slightly flared and Kelso shrug are 2 of the best movements here for helping build this muscle group. And what's really nice is a chest-supported row directly into a Kelso shrug is a quick and easy superset. Shoulder blades back is the big cue here. Again, primarily for the strongman athlete, the rhomboids work to keep us from losing torso position. Now that we've really talked about the main muscle groups here, let's discuss a bit of programming. Now, personally, I like to have a bit of back work every single day, as this muscle group can have a lot of volume done to it, and it's going to be all right. And by spreading it out across the week, I find I just stay focused a little bit better. You need both vertical and horizontal work to be successful in this as a strongman athlete. I think pull-ups and chin-ups aren't given enough love by people in the sport. And honestly, they're very important for keeping your biceps healthy. And if you're not at the position that you can do chin-ups without assistance, do them on a machine, do them with a band, progress with chin-up grip, lat pull-downs, and then move into the chin-up. In general, for programming the back, I don't like more than 2 big exercises per session, as just because the back is such a large muscle group, it can be rather fatiguing. And this one's strictly personal preference, but I like to do some form of vertical pull after my squats or deadlifts because I find it stretches out my low back really nicely. If you find that pressing gives you more low back fatigue, that might be the day you consider slotting in your vertical pulls. And also, for what it's worth, I don't count the spinal erectors into this 2 exercise figure, as they're just going to get so much work through all of your compound movements, as well as if you are including them in your programming, stuff like good mornings and back extensions. So here are 2 examples of what your upper back programming might look like across a week. The first one is your typical 4-day split, 2 upper, 2 lower. So for example, you'll start with your deadlift variation, go into good mornings, a bent over row, and then back extensions. So you'll see there we have 2 back exercises that day. And then obviously various other accessories. Then would be upper developmental, where you're going to do band pull aparts before your log push press, 1-arm pull downs, and then some arm and delt work. Lower developmental would be your squat variation, carrying work, and then that chest supported row to Kelso shrug combination. And this would slide in really nicely here because you've all got a nice tired low back from the squats and carries. So this way you can manage your fatigue levels. And then upper max effort day, you could do a push press, some chin-ups, face pulls, and then your various other accessories. So you can see we're adhering to that 2-ish movements per day, spreading it across both vertical and horizontal movements. Now, conversely, if you're training 3 times a week full body, day 1 might be something like a deadlift, a floor press, and then a vertical pull, face pulls, and then whatever other accessories. And what we've done here is we've opted for pressing and pulling variations after the deadlift to help minimize low back fatigue moving into day 2, where we'd start with our band pull aparts, then do our push press, bent over rows, back extensions, and then whatever other accessories you have. And then day 3 would have our squat variation. Our secondary strongman press variation might be more log push press, might be a Viking press. All depends on what you're programming for. Then a chest supported row to Kelso shrug, and then whatever other accessories. And again, you'll see here what we've done is because we have the squat and the strongman style press, we're assuming a certain level of low back fatigue is going to be present after those movements, hence why we move into the chest supported and Kelso combination. So that's a really nice, simple overview of how you can go about slotting in your upper back work across a training week. Obviously, adding in stuff like shrugs and pullovers will help out with this. If you find you are throwing the weight around, add in pauses at the top as well. In the sport of strongman, I do think the upper back primarily works isometrically. It's mainly there to prevent movement we don't want or stabilize specific movements rather than generating the movement itself. So adding in pauses, adding in tempo work could be very valuable here. But that really wraps it all up. Hopefully you found something useful on this. If there's any other topics you'd like to see me cover in the future, make sure to comment down below. The best ones are ones I will turn into videos down the road. Otherwise, I'll catch you folks in the next video. Take care, everyone.